Hey, out of order, James Kalita here. I'm going to do a quick video on how to use Listen Notes to find podcasts to be a guest on. And doing this for a friend of mine who said they couldn't make it work with iTunes, and I don't blame them. iTunes was cool in 2013, and then they fixed it and hasn't quite worked right since. So looking for podcasts to be a guest on, I go to listennotes.com and I type what I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm going to do education. And search. And one thing you'll find when you do this is that podcasts come and go. And, you'll see some of these were 6 days ago, but as we scroll down, some of them were a year ago, a month ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. So I like to do filters. And we're going to say publication time within the past month. Apply filters. And then up here we have episodes and podcasts. And I like to start with podcasts. And then we have our results here. We scroll down and we get to kind of look at these titles and see what we think the best fit would be for our audience and theirs. Now I cheated, and before this I went and did a few searches. I did some searches for statistics, for math, for education, and so I found this one incredibly curious. So I scroll through, and one of the things we want to make sure is that we know that they regularly do interviews. And so you can go through and look just to see if they mention the word interview or they mention somebody other than the podcast host's name. And if they don't, it's not the end of the world. Just want to be mindful of it when we contact them. Want to make sure they know we're aware that they don't normally do interviews or have guests, but that maybe they'd want to consider it. And it looks like at the very least these guys are having a group of people together, so they're at least used to putting two different people's voices together, recording two different people at the same time, getting the volume right and all that. So this would be one that you could reach out to if you had a math lead magnet that you wanted to talk to about. Also did a search for homeschool, and let's see, I think this is one of those ones that, they haven't been doing anything in the past 5 years, so skip that one. And what do we have here? Homeschool talks, ideas and inspiration for your homeschool. And here we go. So this one, as recently as July 16th, they had a guest on their show. So they talk about homeschooling, all different kinds of things of homeschooling. So if you're a math tutor, this is a great one to reach out to and say, hey, can I be a guest on your show? Let's see. And see, one of the downsides about doing videos is you can't edit out silence because it's still silence. This is one that hasn't been done in a while, but they did do interviews. So it's worth reaching out to them and saying, hey, just think about bringing the podcast back. Did you, do you have any tips? Just reach out, help build your network. Might be they stop doing podcasts, but they might be, doing something else and have a platform there that they can help you with and that you can help them with. I was interviewing a gentleman for my podcast the other day, and he's written, I think, 6 books. He has a video course that he offers, travels the country, and we were talking, and I was like, how do you do it all? And he's like, at one time I even had a podcast. So, if we found his podcast on here, it would look like he'd, given up and gone home, but he still has that huge platform out there that, we were able to talk about. So, and parenting teens. Here we go. So, it's easy to teach your kids math when they're in like kindergarten through 3rd grade. After that, it's hard. And look through here. This is every episode. This person is interviewing someone. So if you can come up with a couple of questions that they can ask you about parenting and teaching either statistics or teaching algebra or teaching word problems or just helping with teaching math. This, you might be able to find your way as a guest onto this podcast. And this is a 5-minute search I did. I made myself a cup of soup for lunch, and I just did a quick search. And these are some of the ones that I came up with. Catholic school moms. And I'm not sure if they interview. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's Kim. Never mind. If they interview men, but worth reaching out and finding out. Let's see. And this is a guy I thought, he is following the no launch path, and it looks like he stopped about a year ago. And so worth reaching out to him, see how he's doing, see what worked for him, what didn't. Maybe you guys can compare notes. And Math Ed Podcast. This one, what is that? Publish a paper. Talk to these guys about it. I know publishing a paper is really hard, but I just keep thinking about that episode Tom Lloyd had a few weeks ago about the 7 fake papers that got published. So, yeah. All right. And then just wanted to go back to the homepage here, right? And so we have scroll to the bottom and you can get notified for new podcasts about education. So, oh, they want me to log in. Oh, fine. I'll log in. And plumping moisturizers, skin strengthening proteins keep skin looking younger. 84%. I think this is the one I use. All right, so monitoring podcasts, so keywords, education. You see, I have a few down here that I use for my podcast. Almost every day, I get at least one email with a with some new podcast episodes. And sometimes it's, a lot of times it's a podcast that I am already aware of, but a lot of times it's a podcast that's, outside of my normal sphere, and they just talk about politics or they just interview interesting people. And one of these terms comes up, and then that's an in for me, I know that podcast, hey, this podcast does interviews. It answers that question for me. And, they have guests in my circle, and now I can reach out to them and say, I want to be a guest on your show. So education, create alert. We can do more options and any language. We want English because that's always fun, or whatever other languages you speak. Categories, I'd leave that out because really if someone from, alternative health wants to talk to you about statistics, talk to them about statistics. If it's somebody about Buddhism wants to talk to you about statistics, talk to them about statistics, right? We want to expand your audience. And, if you think about the podcasting universe as a Venn diagram, right, all these different things, wherever Buddhism overlaps with mathematical tutoring, that's where you want your voice to be. And fields, I leave it blank. We want all 3: title, description, author, and create alert. And then you will get your emails. All right. I'm going to stop rambling and see you next time.